wonder how from these beautiful courtyards, where people lived in the good neighborhoods, and then the tower blocks that are being done for social housing today, which are really horrible. Now this is not a joke. This is an architect who is very serious. And this is nothing but the whole philosophy of the modern artist and the modern art. He is not trying to be original. He is trying to be sort of expressing himself. This work does not reflect the art, but it is trying to reflect him. I am there. I'm trying to do this. So what does he have? He has a Quran for the entrances. And funnily enough, he has the mosque as a pentagon. And the mosque, through all history, has been always a rectangle. So has the church. The church was linear. The mosque, it was north-south. The mosque spread like this to give more wall for the prayer towards Mecca. And this is, he gets away with this in the name of modernity. I have another one in Kuwait also, which is even funnier than this one. And but this is, to explain this is really to explain there's a whole chapter that an American wrote, Richard Weaver, on the egotism in art and architecture. And this is trying to reflect the ego. And this is the difference between traditional art and modern art. Modern art is concerned with the nafs, with the ego. It is trying to make the artist a special man, and he thinks he can become special by becoming an acrobat. Instead of working in a circus, he's working in the city. Traditional art is not trying to make the artist a special man. He's making every man a special artist. And this is what I saw when I went and I've seen how the kiswa of the Kaaba is being produced. I was supposed to do the new building for them at one time. And I went and I saw how every man there was producing this great work of art, which was every year replenished on top of the Kaaba, and then cut and spread something individual. It was always full of symbolism, and the symbolism was not created by man. The symbolism is archaic. It comes from archetypes, and it is universal. It doesn't belong to an individual. And here you have this, many symbols in this. You have the four corners, which we still use these corners to build the dome around the square of the mosque. You have the serpent, as you can see here. The serpent represents the calendar. You find this symbol also in Mexican and Mayan art. And you have the four knots here. And this is really a universal symbol. This is the cross in Islamic architecture and art. And this spoke Imam Ghazali. He said man lives in a three-dimensional cross. He has up and down, front and back, left and right. And every direction has its symbol. The vertical axis is the qualitative axis. And use the symbolism, you say he's up, he's in the penthouse, the other is in the gutter. You give the title Ma'ali, and at the very end of, very top of the seventh heaven, you say God is in the heavens, the north-south, you say this, I'm taking one step forward, I'm taking two backwards, so it's a progressive X. And you have the left-right is a quantitative X. You say the British Empire was from east to west, quantitatively. You know, he has no direction. He's swaying from left to right. So each X has its importance in expressing space. And this is the three-dimensional cross. You have it here. And it's also the seasons, the 4 seasons. The traditional city was divided into 4 quarters, and used the word quarters until today, and the center is where we have the headquarters. And here you have another thing which is amazing. You have, she's holding a circle here which is a hilal. You see this hilal with the thing here? The offsetting of the 2 circles. And this, if you work it out, there is in tradition always a very important knowledge that was kept a secret sometimes, and that it was called the squaring of the circle. So that the perimeter, the circumference of that circle, if it's 132, which is, if you take, you know, the circle pi, which is 22/7, so you have 22, 22, 22, and people are asking, how do you get identity in architecture? But the easiest way to lose identity is to put men in confinement. That's what the KGB and the secret police do. They put you in total isolation. Then you lose your identity, because man identifies himself. There are several identities, until the highest identity is that of being aware of God. But once you put in isolation, and the loss of identity in our cities is because of the idea that modern ideology made the tabula rasa, cleaning the table, and fought history. And then I'll tell you how we're looking at history now. We're looking at it as a dead object in museums. But this is the Hilal. But also I said, okay, why are we doing it wrong when it should be up? And then I said, because we're influenced by the ideology of the modern age. Because when we were in tradition believing that Adam came from heaven, we were looking at the vertical axis. When Darwin went into his progressivist theory and went to the horizontal axis, so he wanted to go forward, so he said, let me look back first and see what my past was. So he looked back, he didn't find Adam, he found a monkey. They weren't interested in drawing what you see, but what you know. There was an intellectual approach to art. Art was a very powerful, iconoclastic, symbolic way of transmitting knowledge. It was a very sacred language. And this is what we lost today. This is part of the traditional carpet. Part of it. And I just photographed this part because, again, very famous calligrapher now who's making millions on his art, friend of mine. And he was lecturing once, and he said, I innovated in calligraphy, and he was showing his twisted calligraphy like this. And I said, it's not true. He said, who said it's not true? I raised my hand. He saw my face, he said, I agree, and he continued. He wasn't ready to go for the argument. He didn't innovate. He said, I introduced color and I introduced composition. It's not true. There is color and there is composition. but it wasn't very important. This is a very important painting. This is Picasso's first painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. When he introduced that painting, he shocked the world of art. What he tried to do here, he tried to break two things that have been going for 400 years during the Renaissance. It was perspective and chiaroscuro, shade and shadow, chiaroscuro, Italian. So he took away the perspective and he took the chiaroscuro, flattened it. And he was treated as a genius. Although there was documentary on Picasso that he copied all his art from Africa, and he tried to deny it, but they found in his sketchbooks after he died and everything that he was doing nothing but sketching and sketching African art. So what he did the African art without the religion of the African, without the symbolic meaning of that art. And that is unfortunately. Again, here you have, this is the realism that he tried to get away from, and that's what the Orientalists did. They came and brought their painting techniques and ideology and started doing it in Arab houses in Cairo and so on. And this is true art. This is another traditional art. It's not Islamic, but it's Japanese, and I think it's the most beautiful in the world. This art is made for meditation. It's made for contemplation. It's made for repose. It's made for appreciating the beauty of nature. And they are sold at a very, very, very high price, those who can paint this today. Because it really is a very refined art. A mastery of the brush and of the technique. This is how I started doing presentation in my projects. I got fed up from doing perspective with cars and Saudi people in Gotra going in and out of the buildings. And I felt cheap because this is the way they were selling projects to the Gulf and the Arab world, you know, drawing all those James Bond buildings with the Gotra and the contradiction. And I use this traditional way of art which originates in Pharaonic and, you know, with a frame around. And I changed the technique and it became very popular in England. They started really loving it. Here you have also the Orientalist way of depicting the courtyard which we spoke about in the first slide. And you can see the internal life. And I lived in a house, Hassan Fatih had a house like this in Egypt, and we had our studio in one room like this looking into the courtyard, and this is sitting loggia, and it was beautiful. Privacy, quiet, we could work there. I live in a modern apartment in Egypt, and I go crazy because all the time somebody comes down the road and gives a horn to call his friend on the fourth floor. Beep, 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 ba, ba, ba. And I go down, I go out of the balcony, it's 12 o'clock at night. I say, please, you're disturbing us. He looks at me like this. If you're a man, come down and talk to me. I told him what? I'm going to come down and fight with everybody that gives a horn here. Learn your manners. Come down, you son of a... He started insulting. So this is what you see with modern technology, how it teaches us bad manners. We don't. You remember that slide before of the snake? Now here it is in a floor pattern. I found three patterns like this, one in Turkey and one in the Book of Bourgoin, and one also in Cairo. And there you have, you see the circle, 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 and then you have this circle here. And then I told him, I had somebody helping me with drawing, architect, young guy who wanted to come and train with me. I told him, you see that small picture there from one of the mosques? Draw it. So he drew 60 triangles. I looked at it, I saw they were thinner than the photographs. So I said, did you count them? He said, how can I count them? Very small. I said, get a magnifying glass. Because people don't understand how copying is important and to copy right. And he counted them, he found them 51 triangles. And I stayed 1 year trying to find why is it 51. And I was reading a book on the pyramids and I found the angle of the pyramid is 51 degrees, 51 minutes. So we have 51 triangles here and 51 dark ones. So I was amazed. This is the angle of the pyramid. So I took the angle from that corner here and went up to that point here. I found that the 51 will come to that point, which is the circle here. And I found that the squaring of the circle came from where this is. There is the square. And I could see that this pattern was, they were not somebody inventing them. They were universal symbols that were being repeated in different areas, in different parts of the world, as a preservation of knowledge and of cosmology. And when people look at today, then they make just an octagon, like a stamp, and say this is Islamic. We had the Ministry of Awqaf in Egypt. They made a modern building, and on the walls they stamped octagons so that it became Islamic. It's another joke. This is a very important picture for me. When I was in India, Qutb Manara in Delhi, everybody was looking at the beautiful minaret and everything. I went around the rooms and I found this. And this was very important because this was the arch before the discovery of the voussoirs. What are voussoirs? They are when you take a center here and you make the joints between the bricks come all the way like this to the center. And this is how you build an arch, by putting the bricks from a center like this. Here, it is a corbelling action and then an arching action. And every arch has two structural elements. Corbelling, something that can go out without falling, and arching, something that is pushing, trying to push the walls to support itself. And this was an incredible discovery for me, because when we were talking of traditional architecture in Saudi Arabia, there's an architect who made a modern building and unfortunately got an Aga Khan award for it. But he made the arch of 2.5 meters, which was the Saudi arches, they corbelled without cutting this. So you had one corbel like that, the other like that, and then at the end they had 2 stones to cover the pointed arch. But these were done for 2.5 meter spans in the mosque. He made a mosque, modern mosque, 12.5 meters. 10 times the original in concrete. And he took the form. And this is what you call the idol in tradition. To become idolizing the tradition, not to understand what is behind the tradition, why it was like this. It's just making a mimicry of the form. And this is very bad. This is not the way to go and show your tradition. This is to make a parody of the tradition. Because if the Dir'iyah Mosque had evolved, it wouldn't have evolved by like this. It would have evolved the way it evolved in Egypt, in Syria, in Baghdad. And if they required bigger spans, until it would have ended up like in the biggest spans, which were the mosques in Turkey, at the very end of the Islamic architecture. This is pharaonic. This is the catenary arch. I ask every structural engineer, what's the formula of the catenary arch? He doesn't know it. And this is the problem today, why some of the technology, they fight us. Not because it's inferior. It's because it exposes their concrete and steel engineers. Structural engineers to know the mathematics and the geometry. This arch is 4,000 years old. Mud brick. So I started using this technology, starting from Hassan Fathy, and I made the first house, Agami House courtyard. Everybody used to come there to pray. They thought it was a mosque because I had a dome. But here you have the combination of space, a vault, arch, and dome, and creating the intimate space inside. You have a courtyard, you have a wind catch to bring air from the sea through here, come down the courtyard, and you have the elements, the lighting, the diffusion of light. In fact, one of the qualities of the award was the diffusion of light in the building, because when you have glare, you have fatigue. And there is the wind catch here, there is the bedroom, the living room, and there is the courtyard. You have a fireplace when it's cold and you can sit here, you're not protected. It's nice, you can make barbecue, but you have the private space. And that's the loggia. And the idea of going through courtyard to the bedrooms and so on was so new at the time. And you see this? That stone exists all around here. That stone was used to build that house with a bit of bricks. And this is the advantage. Here you have the way they old, this is another house I did in Saudi Arabia, and I used the lantern in tradition, which lets the hot air out and light into the room so that you don't have glare. And this is, again, the arch that transforms the square into an octagon. But in wood, it's rectilinear, because wood prefers the rectilinear rather than brickwork. And here you can see the construction, very simple. Now, one slide I didn't have here was showing the advantages. I don't know if I have the slide. No, I don't have the slide. But the advantages of the technology of brickwork as to concrete. In order to make a concrete column, you have 9 operations. In order to have brickwork, you have 1 operation only, and a scaffolding. And this is very important, especially in countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, where all the labor is imported. Imagine you have to have 9 operations. One is doing the steel, one is pouring the concrete, one is doing the shuttering. And each one of these is a specialized skill. And you have to get visas for him, and you have trouble getting visa and so on. You get one person, a brick layer, and you finish your building. There they are. And all you need is 1 operation, scaffolding, and you build it gradually. There is nothing about it. It's like children now, you buy them Lego, and this is the true Lego. You're building it for real here, not as a toy. And this was the nutshell of a house, and here you have also how I use the, the proportion, sacred golden section and all that to produce the house. And I have here the whole embryo of the Arab house, the front entrance, the courtyard, the Iwan, the loggia, the Qa'a, and going up you have the loft, you have the bedroom. It was made for a touristic model for tourism in Egypt, and I had a friend, he let me build it to make it as a model, and nobody was interested. And again, the furniture, just have easy sitting, fireplace, this can be used as extra beds, staircase, dining corner near the kitchen, and that's it. So the whole of this is the courtyard. And this courtyard is only 6 meters. That's to show you the model of geometry. Imagine if this 6 meters, I gained them around the house. It would have been maybe 5 or 10 centimeters of extra space from the neighbor. Then came the first house I did in Saudi Arabia. The sound has gone. And that was the house when it was first built. Now it's full of trees and everything. But you have a courtyard here, and they have the central reception area here. You have the wind catches, and this is the roof, and this is swimming pool courtyard, entrance driveway, so that it doesn't stand in the sun. And the site was askew. I used the traditional way of aligning the building with the boundary. And these are elements of the house. This is very important, this courtyard. I think we have a larger picture, but this explains also something. Here you have also the crafts. You see, this now nobody can do carpenter, they glue it. But this is all interlocked and moving. Now they glue it. This was an art we had trying to preserve these living treasures, these craftsmen that are dying one by one. You have all these floor patterns again on the same theme. And when I did this wall, the municipality wanted to demolish it. And I went and begged Amin, the mayor of Jeddah, to let me finish it. Because the Baladiyya said we want fence like Bois de Boulogne or like Paris. Or what fence in this heat? Metal fence, the heat in it and the air comes like a radiator. Where do they get this, all this, what they want to have the Bois de Boulogne and the Hyde Park, and there's nothing but dirt and desert around here. So we have the fence and the trees. And I showed him, I told him, look, it's approaching, and then here you have a punctuation, and then you have the entrance, and this gateway links with the rest of the building. And he said, finish, this is what we're looking for. This is the example I wanted to find of contemporary Islamic architecture, and he made me consultant for 10 years. This is a wind catch. The wind is coming this direction, so this side is beveled. And people see this and they thought it was a modern sculpture. This is just a wind catch. And here you have the traditional door. We made that door also, we made the chandelier, we made and it was beautiful working with the craftsmen. And this is very interesting. This is what a fantastic person, Kumaraswamy, has a book called The Transformation of Nature in Art. How we transform nature into art. So today what they do, they transform nature into architecture by getting a plastic palm tree and putting it, which is sacrilegious, because you cannot imitate the creation of God. But you can imitate the function. And this is the transformation of nature in art. This is the palm tree. And it gives you the function of the palm tree, which is to shade you. So this is how elements like this become meaningful and they last. It's not because I wanted it so. And this is the Masjid Ibn Tain in Medina al-Munawwara. And the contractor wanted me to make precast panels and, pour them. I said, if you do this, I will keep my walls white. I don't want it. Why? It's faster. I said, it's not a matter of fast or anything. This is, people have to be involved in building the mosque. It is not, a man of culture does not look at the end. If you look at the end only, you become a Hitler, you kill people to achieve an end, to win an argument, whatever. A man in culture is concerned more the means, the road that leads you to your end. If the road is wrong, then finish, you don't do it. So, building a mosque is not the finished product, it's the means, how the community gets involved with it. And these people, when they work like this, they have a nail stuck somewhere here and they put the radio and listen to the Quran and they keep carving in the wall. And it's like a way of tasbih. And when they came after I did this, and they came, the people of Medina, and they saw the scene, they had tears in their eyes. They were so moved. It was such a beautiful scene. They were all perched on the wall like this, and the Quran was chanting all around the radios. And they were there, and this white wall was taking shape until it became something beautiful. This also took an award. I did a very simple mosque, supposed to have been before this one, but they wanted me to show off, and I did this. I took the award for this one, but the one that should have taken the award was really another one. This is the inspiration of this composition. And this is, you see, you don't copy nature. You don't copy tradition, history like this, stupidly, Then there is no act of intelligence. So when people say you can't repeat the past, nobody repeats the past. You are inspired by this one, because this one is inspired from another mosque. I hope the slide is here. It's called Giyushi Mosque. It's on the Muqattam Hills. And I used to go every day to university looking at that mosque, and I fell in love with the mosque, the way it was sited. So you have here again, you see the dome, without any formwork, without anything, being built in the air, to show you the economy. That man started from the ground up to the end. The mosque was finished. No complications, and it's much cheaper. And this is how tradition used to make floor patterns, how you create floor patterns instead of having just tiles like that. And again, there is no stem, octagon. Tradition is like badges being stamped everywhere. See, this is different, this is different. And here, this is a staircase all done in bricks. Engineers said it couldn't be done, we did it. And this was also the sketch I gave to the mayor to get this plot of land. What he asked me is to do modern sculpture here. I told him, I'm sorry, I don't do modern sculpture. He was doing beautification of the corniche. He said, why? I said, sculpture in our culture is the mosque. So he says, okay, do mosque. And then one after the other we did. This is the mosque that inspired me. This is the Giyushi Mosque. It was in total ruins. Beautiful mosque. These were the sketches. And here was one of the first stalactites I did. It took me a very long time to learn how to do this because there was no book on the times on the stalactites. But you have the corner detail and this bevel to take the wood here. Detail is very important in traditional architecture. There you can see. This is different from that, right? Now they got somebody, they try to find an old workman who still has some molds to put it in the mosque. That's what they do in Haram, unfortunately, but no architect is going to bother. It's beneath his dignity. These details, either he finds a Filipino or a Pakistani to do it, and that's it. But this is how the offices are working in Saudi Arabia. Nobody wants to work. We don't understand anymore that a functioning society enriches itself by doing the work. Sultan Abdul Hamid of Turkey, he used to have every day the calligrapher come into his office and used to hold him the ink for him to write a basmala. And he has some of the most beautiful calligraphy in the museum in Medina al-Munawwara. That was the Sultan. And this is how the art was infiltrating from the Sultan to the most humble person in the society. It was part of our life. Now nobody wants to draw. The architects don't want to do it. They don't know how enjoyable it's to do these things. This is how I did the staircase because they said you cannot do it without concrete. I did it 1 vault on top of the other. Look at the vaults here, irregular vaults, but look at an angle, they give the variety. This is the staircase with the vaults. You see 1 vault carrying the other. You go up the minaret in a series of vaults like this. No concrete. There it is. And there's the man. All his tools is this. And this one. There is the staircase. I'm sorry, it's a bit mixed the slides, but the conference of COP, the environment, my time was supposed to work more on it, but I'm interested in seeing what they're going to say about the environment. This is also another sketch I made for the mayor and got him to do. And at the beginning he said, why can't we do the same mosque again repeated? I said, no, this is the Awqaf does this. They stamp a mosque in every square, in every neighborhood, the same one. I said, no. This is degrading to our culture and our intelligence and our means of expression. You make the theme, variations on a theme like in music. You take a theme and you create variations on it, but it's not the same tune all the time. Otherwise it wouldn't be a symphony. There you have it here. All this to take the wind because Jeddah is very humid like Doha. And this is what made me in very bad terms with the Aga Khan committee. I was on the jury and I refused to give this award. This was an insult to the city of Jeddah to give it an award. In fact, it was turned around 60 degrees because the offices were facing the king's palace. So the king said, no, when he saw the model, don't let it face the palace. Let it face the whole city. But if the king refuses to have people looking at him, why should he accept that the building be built at all, to be looked upon by everybody?